Baby Shark Dance Documentary. There is a video on the internet that has been watched more times than there are people alive on Earth. Not once, more than 10 times over. It features two children in matching pajamas doing a dance next to an animated shark family. It is 1 minute and 36 seconds long, and it has generated a business empire, a Guinness World Record, a chart position on the Billboard Hot 100, a 6-year international lawsuit, and enough plays that if you stack them end to end, they would run for tens of thousands of years without stopping. This is the story of Baby Shark Dance. The song itself did not begin in a boardroom or a recording studio. Long before anyone in South Korea had touched it, Baby Shark existed as an oral campfire chant, sung by children at American summer camps for decades. Its origins murky enough that nobody can point to a single inventor. One popular theory ties its emergence to the mid-1970s, around the same period Steven Spielberg's Jaws turned sharks into a cultural obsession, though no one has ever nailed down a definitive first version. What everyone agrees on is that by the time anyone thought to copyright it, Baby Shark had already been passed hand to hand, camp to camp, for a generation, which is precisely the detail that would matter enormously decades later in a courtroom on the other side of the world. In 2011, an American children's entertainer named Jonathan Wright, performing under the name Johnny Only, released his own studio version of the song, adding a cleaned-up set of lyrics and simple choreography aimed at family audiences. It found a modest following. Then, in 2015, a South Korean educational entertainment company called Smart Study, the company that would later rename itself the Pinkfong Company, released its own rendition, sung by a young Korean-American performer named Hope Segoen, as part of a broader catalog of children's sing-alongs. It didn't explode immediately, but the tune's simplicity, repetitive, rhythmic, built for tiny voices to shout along to, started spreading through South Korea first, catching on with parents and kids before making the leap into pop culture in an unexpected way. Some of Korea's biggest K-pop acts, including Red Velvet and Girls' Generation, began incorporating the dance into their own performances and choreography, treating a children's sing-along like a legitimate viral dance craze. Then, in June 2016, Pinkfong released the version that would eventually take over the planet, Baby Shark Dance, featuring two children performing an easy-to-copy set of hand and arm gestures alongside bright, candy-colored animation of a shark family. It had everything a preschool audience needed: a beat kids could clap along to, movements a toddler could imitate without any coordination at all, and a hook so repetitive it became, for millions of parents, both a blessing and a curse. The climb from children's YouTube channel to global phenomenon took a few years, but once it started, it didn't stop. By 2019, Baby Shark had crossed into the mainstream in a way almost no children's song ever had, charting at number 32 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States and reaching number 6 on the UK's official singles chart, chart positions typically reserved for pop stars, not preschool sing-alongs. Recording artists including Cardi B and Josh Groban filmed their own tributes to the song, further cementing it as one of those rare pieces of children's media that adults couldn't entirely escape either. In November 2020, Baby Shark Dance overtook Luis Fonsi and Daddy Yankee's Despacito to become the single most viewed video in YouTube's history, a title Despacito itself had only held after dethroning Psy's Gangnam Style, another Korean cultural export that had, a few years earlier, redefined what viral internet fame could look like. Baby Shark would go on to hold the most viewed crown for 15 consecutive months, and in January 2022, it crossed a number that had never been reached by any video on the platform before: 10 billion views, officially confirmed by Guinness World Records as the first video in history to do so. The company built an entire promotional campaign around the milestone, tied to a global initiative it called Beyond Infinity, built on the idea that a song about a family of sharks had proven that limits, the kind adults assume exist, were more flexible than anyone thought. By June 2024, the view count had climbed to 14.5 billion. By June 2025, it passed 16 billion, more than double its nearest competitor, and Pinkfong's YouTube presence as a whole, spanning dozens of channels in multiple languages, had surpassed 100 billion cumulative views, a figure the company itself pointed out meant that every single person on the planet had, on average, watched its content more than 10 times over. Behind the eye-popping numbers sat a business model most media companies would envy. Early estimates suggested Pinkfong had earned several $1 million from YouTube advertising revenue on the Baby Shark dance video alone, long before the character empire built around it. Theme park attractions, a Nickelodeon television series, a feature film, toy lines, and live stage shows turned Baby Shark into one of the most lucrative pieces of children's intellectual property in the world. That kind of success was bound to invite a fight over who actually owned it. In 2019, Jonathan Wright, Johnny Only, the American performer who had released his own version back in 2011, filed a lawsuit in Seoul, arguing that Pinkfong's smash hit had copied elements of his earlier recording, including its bass line and rhythmic structure. He sought roughly 30 million South Korean won, equivalent to a little over $20,000 in damages. What followed was a 6-year legal odyssey through South Korea's court system. A Seoul court ruled against Wright in 2021, finding insufficient evidence that Pinkfong had copied his specific arrangement rather than the underlying, decades-old campfire tune both versions were built on. An appeals court upheld that decision in 2023. Wright pushed the case all the way to South Korea's Supreme Court, and in August 2025, the country's highest court delivered its final word. His claim was dismissed. The justices reasoned that Wright's own 2011 version hadn't sufficiently transformed the original public domain chant to qualify as a distinct, protectable creative work in its own right, and that whatever similarities existed between his recording and Pinkfong stemmed from a shared folk source that belonged to no one. Pinkfong, for its part, maintained throughout that it had simply taken a public domain sing-along chant and given it, in the company's words, a fresh rhythm and melody that turned it into the character it had become. After 6 years in the courts, the matter was, as Wright's own attorney put it, finally settled. Whatever the explanation, the numbers speak for themselves. More views than there are people on the planet. More than a decade after that first campfire chant found its way onto a South Korean production line, Baby Shark is still, by a wide margin, the most watched video humanity has ever produced. Proof that sometimes the biggest cultural phenomenon in the world isn't a blockbuster movie or a chart-topping album. Sometimes it's a shark family, a repetitive hook, and a dance a toddler can do in a diaper. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this content, please press the subscribe button.